Testament without reading the New Testament. Now, that's absolutely against any principle of knowledge that I know anything about. I taught for a period of time in the elementary school. I taught teachers to teach in the elementary school. And a principle of education is that we go from the known to the unknown. We don't work our way backwards. We start with concrete things. And, of course, God started with concrete truths in the Old Testament. He taught us that God was absolutely one. He said, in the beginning, God created, a singular verb, the heavens and the earth. And then when he gave his truth to Moses on Mount Sinai, the first and greatest commandment, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And then throughout the Old Testament, in over 10,000 verses, either using God's name with singular verbs, or in plain and open declaration, God declares himself to be eternally and unalterably one. But Walter Martin would have us believe that after the entire Old Testament is written, that we can determine in the New Testament that God has eternally existed in three separate persons, and then extrapolate that back upon the Old Testament doctrine. It could never be. No carpenter would ever build a foundation for a house over here and then build the house over here. He builds on top of the foundation that he has established. And that's a principle of all learning and all knowledge, and it certainly is a principle of biblical revelation. Now, our Lord Jesus Christ, when he was here on this earth, made some plain declarations about Old Testament theology. In Mark, the 12th chapter, and verse 29, Jesus was questioned as what was the greatest commandment. Mark 12:29, he said the greatest. He did not hesitate. He did not say there are several that are great. There are several that are rivals for greatness. He said there is a greatest commandment, and it is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, and thy strength. What did he do when he did that? He simply authenticated the Hebrew theology of the Old Testament. And then in the 4th chapter of John, when he was discussing with the woman at the well of Samaria about salvation, whether God should be worshipped in the mountain of Samaria or in Jerusalem, the Lord Jesus Christ once again authenticated Old Testament theology when he said, concerning the worship of the Jews, we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. If modern Trinitarianism were correct, Jesus would have said, we really don't know what we worship, because we have yet to reveal that God has eternally existed in three separate co-equal persons, and then the Jewish nation must be taught that. But he put his imprimatur on Hebrew theology when he said, we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Absolutely, God was one person.